Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Spiritual Center for Conscious Living. You have Renee, Spencer, and Lori here, and we are excited because April, we're doing things a little different here. We have a new format for you. Before I'll describe that in a little bit here, and pardon me as my eyes dart around because now we're monitoring two places, and I don't have anything written, so this is going to be a little bit ping pongy. But it's it's me and I love it. Um, to start, we are doing our April series. This month is Spiritual Metamorphosis, the Metaphysics of Birth and Renewal. This week's topic is Evolving Consciousness. Now, I did mention that format change. We're doing things a little differently. You're still going to get the same great message and meditation, energy activation from Renee. We're also going to make it a little more conversational. So after that, we're going to have a conversation just sort of between the three of us and hopefully you. So please leave us comments. I already see one in there from our dear friend Sharon. So she says good morning to all of us. Good morning, Sharon. It's so great to have you here. In addition to this change, we are also live on YouTube. We have received some feedback over the years that Facebook isn't necessarily accessible to everybody, especially if they don't have an account. So we're there on YouTube as well. You can follow us, the same name there, Spiritual Center for Conscious Living, on YouTube, or you can chill with us here. We love it both ways. I'm monitoring comments on both ends. So, yeah, as I said, we're going to do a nice lesson and meditation, and then we'll talk about it. So leave us comments, leave us questions, anything you want. We'll use our discretion and we'll bring it up in the conversation, and we'd love to have you be a part of it. So with that being said, I believe that's all the announcements we have. I'm going to pass it off to Renee to start us with our lesson.
Great. There we go. So I'm going to start us off today. I'm glad we're here. I was having trouble getting my view the way I needed it. So bear with me one second while I do that. We're all learning something new today. So, okay, there we go. So what I wanted to start with today, like we've been doing for a few months now, is I want to start before we go right into the message. I want to kind of get us all in the same vibrational frequency, the same consciousness, you might say. And we're going to talk about consciousness today. So that's why I use that word. So let's get grounded and let's hold sacred space for all living beings on planet Earth. And for those of you who are new, as you watch live or later in a replay, let me explain what I mean by that. What I mean is, when you hold sacred space, what we're doing is those of us who know that divine presence and power is always available. And when I say no, I mean no to the extent that it's like a part of you, it's a core element of your life. When we know that, we can help others by holding that truth for them, holding the space of knowing for them, even if they're having difficulty with it. And that helps them. It's another way of looking at prayer. It's a way of holding the energy of knowing divine presence and power. So as I'm talking about it, I invite you to, just direct your energy field to open your heart, your mind, connect with pure source, the divine God force, life force. And just know there is divine power and presence always available to everyone on planet Earth. Everyone, everywhere on planet Earth, at all times. Every living being, every person, without exception, all people. Just feel that, hold that steady. All living beings, all creatures, all sentient beings, the all the beautiful trees and plants and foliage and the earth itself and the water flow and the air flow and the soil, the earth itself. Just know that divine presence and power is available to serve us for the most expanded well-being that we all choose individually. And it will always be flowing to and through us for the betterment of all. For the betterment of all. So you don't have to try to control that. You can just open and receive it and know it and hold it. And perhaps there's someone special you want to know that for at this moment. Perhaps it's you, a loved one, a community, a nation. Just know for the entire planet and all people and all creatures, all sentient beings, and for yourself. Divine power and presence is at work and is available. All right, great. So I need to change one thing real quick here. There we go. Okay, there, I can see better. So good. I wanted to talk about evolving consciousness today. And in order to do that, I think it's important that we talk about consciousness first, and then we'll talk about how to evolve it. I can remember I grew up in the metaphysical Christian denomination known as Unity. It's actually non-denominational Christian, but it's metaphysical. And I was 18 months old when I started, being part of teachings and services. And I was, you might say, being sort of groomed all most of my childhood by the minister who I spent a great deal of time with. So I heard all these words, and one of them, this is before I could even read, was the word consciousness. And I can remember asking, what is that? What does that mean? And so in my lifelong work as spiritual teaching and teacher and leader and studying for my own personal involvement, that's a word that it can be confusing. And so I want to make it less confusing. I want to explain it in a variety of ways of ways that make sense to me, ways that I have found over the years that help others. So I'm going to offer a couple of ideas for you to consider. So I'll take a breath first. Take a breath and open your mind and open your heart to just consider consciousness. Ask yourself at this moment, ask your inner self, what you might think of as your soul, your divine self, the part of you that is actually connected, linked to the divine, to source, the source of all life, the power that creates worlds, the power that created you. God force, life force, whatever term you like to have, spirit. So connect to that and then just feel for the moment. Ask yourself, what is my consciousness? How does it feel? How does my consciousness feel at this moment? So the consciousness I'm asking you to feel, one way to look at it is you could look at it as the energy you're emitting, the energy that is you beyond your physical, the energy that it's part of your physical, but it's beyond your physical, the true spirit of you, the wholeness of you, that is a spiritual being, a light being that has come to live in this beautiful body you have on planet Earth at this time, with the personality that and people know by your name, and the lifestyle you have with career choice and family and friends and hobbies, interests. So all of you is an expression of your consciousness. Your consciousness is this energy. It can evolve, but it evolves by your choosing. It doesn't evolve without your acknowledgement, without your participation, and without your awareness and intention. So with your awareness and intention, you make choices that we call in this community conscious choices. And other communities, of course, use that phrase. That's what we teach, is how to learn to live according to conscious choices. So it's important to learn to be aware of your consciousness and then choose to evolve it on a daily basis, on a moment by moment basis. So we'll talk in a moment about that. And when we get to the second half of today's live stream, we'll talk about, Lori and Spencer will join in and we'll have a more expanded conversation about that, and they'll add their personal insights. So Your consciousness consists of your belief systems, known to you and unknown to you. You can have, unknown belief systems that are inherited. You could be raised with belief systems that you don't agree with, but you haven't consciously chosen differently. And so you're playing them out sort of like under the radar, you know, without meaning to. You're living in this sort of conflict with yourself that, how many times do we say we had parents or family members, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever, who did behave certain ways, siblings even, and we are not going to be that. We're not going to raise our children that way. We're not going to handle money that way. We're not going to treat animals that way. We're not going to treat loved ones that way. We're going to be different. Well, if you haven't chosen with clear intention that is aligned with your divine presence and power, in other words, your divine self is making this choice with you, then you aren't evolving your consciousness. You're just telling your brain to do things differently but your brain already has these neural pathways developed from your childhood. So it's why we see people work so hard to change habits, and it becomes really difficult. It's why we see a lot of addictive behaviors, and I'm not talking about just drinking, drugs. I mean all kinds of behaviors that feel addictive. Anger, it can be, people who have this constant anger, that's an addictive behavior. They don't know how to not be angry. They can try and try and try, and willpower alone isn't enough. You have to evolve your consciousness. One of the books I've always loved about understanding consciousness is by Dr. David Hawkins, and he teaches about power versus force is the book, and he teaches about what he calls a map of consciousness. And he's, worked. If you don't know the book, I recommend it. It's an intense read. I'll tell you that up front, but you can pace yourself. But it's really valuable. And he was very committed to, we worked with a lot of people that had drug addictions, and he was always so curious why some of them were able to overcome it using various programs, 12 steps and things like that, and others were not. And it was alarming to him that even though some had great relief, there were still so many who did not. And he would, eventually they would take their life through their addiction. And he wanted to try to find a way to change that. I have a tickly nose today, so excuse me. And so what he did is he started noticing, testing and measuring frequency that people emanate. And so here's something interesting. Do you know that when you choose a certain consciousness as your standard energy frequency that you're emanating, when you learn to choose it and you learn how then to manage it so that you do consistently hold that frequency, then when you walk in a room, you change the frequency of the room. You raise it to your higher frequency for those who are willing. Of course, everyone has free will. We're not forcing anything on anyone. But for those who want to evolve, but don't know how, or don't even know the term or the concept, but they're just wanting more well-being, more self-empowerment. And that's why raising consciousness, evolving consciousness is so important. It is absolutely essential for our well-being and for our self-empowerment. And so when you have a high frequency and you walk into a room, you raise the frequency. When you have a lower frequency such as fear, anxiety, worry, discouragement, and you walk into a room of people, if their frequency is stronger and there's a more collective negativity, it pulls you down. And that is why it's so important to, number one, be aware, be very conscious and aware of your frequency, and have a very clear intention and a commitment to your well-being to learn how to evolve it. And then number two, don't spend time with those who pull you down. You can have compassion for them. Don't judge, don't condemn, don't do anything that would harm them in any way, but take care of yourself. Understand that your consciousness is the most important element of your well-being, the most important element of your health, the most important element of your emotional well-being and your mental clarity. And of course, I'm not saying you don't need to do other things physically. We have needs for our body to be healthy beyond the consciousness. But if you don't have a high consciousness and you're trying to eat the most healthy, you're going to still be in that constant conflict, you see. So we want to eliminate that conflict. We want to have this beautiful foundation of an evolved consciousness. And it will always evolve. It will never stop evolving while you're all through your life. It will continue to evolve. If you want to check out the map of consciousness, that might be helpful to you. There's another tool by the teachings of Abraham that's called the vibrational scale. And I like that one too. I use both in my work personally here with members, and also then in my work with as a mentor and a coach personally, and in my own business. I use both of those tools because they have different resonance to them. And some people like the map of consciousness best. The vibrational scale really gives a little more of an emotional awareness. And I find that a lot of times that's a good beginning point for people who are not used to understanding that how they're feeling emotionally is like it's like the gas gauge on a vehicle. It is telling you in that moment precisely where your consciousness, where your frequency is, which then lets you know that's your state of consciousness in that moment. And it can vary, of course, but there's a point at which the gap of it is not that great usually. Sometimes it spikes up and down because of events happening that can be feel overwhelming or traumatic even, of course. But mostly we all live in a range, and we kind of stay in that range until we choose with conscious awareness and clear intention to raise our consciousness. And once you begin living that way, you have the experience of people who, when they're in your energy field, they will notice and sometimes even tell you, wow, it always feels so good to be around you. You're kind, or you're loving, or you're compassionate, or you're non-judgment, or you're patient. They'll walk into your home, for example, and I'll comment about how peaceful it feels and how comfortable they feel in your presence to just relax and be themselves. That's a person with an evolved consciousness, because you're not judging. You're observing, you have awareness, you're not in denial about other people's choices, but you're managing your own energy so well that you're not in a constant state of reaction to other people's energy. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more in our conversation coming up. And we'll also talk about that in the next 2 weeks, because we're going to move into how do you then you evolve your consciousness, and then how do you use it to create a different experience in your life, choices, things you want that maybe you've wanted a long time and they're still sort of seem to be evasive. And then we're also going to get to another topic later than 2 weeks from now, where we're going to talk about how do you, once you have that evolving consciousness, how you can release the past. It's so much easier then because you're not fighting with it. You're not in that state of conflict. So we're going to go have a energy activation in just a moment. I want to say one more thing about consciousness before we do that. I wanted to, when we go into the meditative, I call it a meditative energy activation because it has a feel of meditation, but I consciously, am holding energy frequency to help you raise yours. So it kind of activates a higher frequency for you if you open to it. It's always by choice. It's not like I can do some kind of wave a magic wand and put a spell. It's not like that at all. It's not, no one can do that to you. It's only you who can do that to you. And so what we will be doing is I want to help you open to feel divine power and presence and allow it. And then I want to help you walk through where you are, where you're starting in terms of your consciousness, your frequency. And then I want to help you raise it and feel the difference and know how to hold it a little more carefully. All right. Okay. So what we're going to do, for those of you who've been with us a little while, we're going to do this a little differently. We're going to have some music playing in the background. Spencer's going to do that for us, where normally we do that first and then we have the music. This time we're going to do it simultaneously. And I'd love for you to give us your feedback. How does that feel to you? So let's go ahead and get started with that process. I invite you to take a deep breath, very deep breath. Exhale with sound. The reason we do that is that activates the vagus nerve through your body, and that helps open your field. And it's also very good for all your vital organs. Now we're going to take a deep breath and we're going to hold it. Take a deep breath. Hold for 3 seconds. Exhale slowly. And now pause for 3 seconds. Now we're going to take just one very gentle, long breath. And exhale very gently and very thoroughly. So it goes all through your body. And hopefully you feel very grounded and centered. Your heart is open and your mind is open. So I invite you to feel an inner feeling inwardly. How does your energy feel? Your consciousness, your frequency. Does it feel calm? Take a breath. Do you have some anxiety? There's no judgment. There's no right or wrong. The purpose of this is to help you learn to feel and be aware of your consciousness. Feel your energy frequency and be aware of your consciousness. Because that is what you're creating more of. We'll talk about that next week. Do you feel worry? Do you feel discouragement? Take a breath. Do you feel at peace? Do you feel a sense of hope? Do you feel positive expectation of good? Do you feel a sense of love, the love of the divine for you, with you? This isn't about how you feel about anyone else. This isn't about how you feel about any circumstance. This is about how do you feel emotionally, because that tells you where your frequency is, your energy frequency, and your consciousness. How are you feeling emotionally? Now, if you're a beautiful soul who's feeling just a sense of pure peace and pure joy and pure love, then that is wonderful. But I promise you, even then, you can still benefit from this process and expand that, even that. You can deepen it and allow it to become more consistent. So wherever you're at now, I want you to just make peace with it. Don't fight it. Even if it has a sense of fear about it. The fear isn't going to hurt you. The fear is, again, just an indicator. It's just an indicator. That's all it is. That you're not in as high alignment with divine presence and power as you're capable of. That's what the fear is telling you. It's just you're off track. You're off track. So take another breath. Now, I want you to choose a higher frequency, not crazy level higher than where you're at. If you are in a positive state, then choose to feel more closely aligned with pure divine love. Perhaps you want to feel hopeful. Perhaps you want to feel a true, steady belief in the goodness of life, the goodness of the universe, the goodness of your ability to manifest in alignment with your desires. If you have been in a little bit lower frequency, if you are feeling some fear, some anxiety, some worry, discouragement, then I invite you to choose to feel a sense of calm and ease. Don't try to go way up to joy right now if you're feeling anxiety. Instead, choose to feel more at peace, more easeful, more open to the possibility that divine presence and power is with you right now, is guiding you, is supporting you, is always with you within and without, all around. Make that choice very clearly, and then take a breath. Release anything different from this new choice. Just release it. Just choose to release it and choose to come back in, and with clear intention, just hold the new choice of consciousness, of energy frequency, emotional vibration. Just hold that. Just hold it for about a minute. Just hold that frequency. I'm going to just stay with you. Hold it. If it wobbles, just take a breath and come back. I choose the frequency of. And that is how you just moment by moment, with conscious awareness and clear intention, raise your vibration. Evolve your consciousness. Stay with it. Do not be unkind to yourself or impatient with yourself. When it wobbles, it's like a baby learning to walk. Be kind and caring and sweet and encouraging. And see the beauty in the effort, and see the beauty in the intention and the desire, and encourage yourself. Okay, so we're going to now come back, and I'm going to bring you back and ground your energy again. So please take another deep breath. Exhale with sound. Another deep breath. Exhale with sound. Now open your eyes. Kind of shake your body a little bit, wiggle your fingers and toes, maybe kind of shake your booty a little bit, move your body around. Make sure you're back in your body. You might want to put your hand on your legs, kind of just make sure your energy is really fully in your body again. We didn't come here to be blissed out, floating around. We're here to be a blended being, a beautiful spiritual being, the essence of the divine by in spirit, created also then in human form, to have a beautiful blended experience, listening to divine guidance through our divine self, our spirit, our soul, leading the personality, letting the soul lead. So now take another deep breath. Right. We're glad you're back. Now we're about to start the conscious conversation. We're going to give you another minute to sort of get grounded, and Lori is going to talk to us for a moment. Lori.
Thank you very much. It's so difficult for me to come back from a meditation that has taken me really deeply into the message. And this one hits home for me because I've been very, very focused on consciousness in everything that I do, especially over the past few years of working with this center. It's something that I honestly did not want to do. I did not want to take a role in the center. I was like, nope, no, I have so much going on with work. I have this, I have this. And there was something tugging me, consciously saying, this is where you're going to find your joy. And then it was like, oh, hey. And it became this conscious choice because I am a joyful spirit, and people have called me this financial cheerleader. No matter what I do, it's like I consciously choose to use my money a certain way with joy. And I release my money to whatever I'm going to do to hopefully, magnify and make more money on that end, whether it's in investments. And I'm not saying I'm rolling in the dough. I'm not a millionaire. No, I'm not. But all my bills are paid. Some of my friends' bills are paid because of it. And because this is, I really do believe that what we give out in the world comes back to us tenfold. And some people look at that and they're so anxious, and I am too, a lot of the time because of my past experience. You're going to give me money for that without any strings? I don't believe you. Something's going to come back. Well, it doesn't, not always. It's a conscious choice that we make personally, whether we bring that energy to us about the money, oh, it's not gift to me, there's some strings attached, or whether we absolutely do receive it with the intention that it is a gift to raise your vibration, a gift so that you can go get your nails done if you're a female, a gift so that you can get your hair cut or a beard trim. And it's just fantastic. And any of the guys watching, I want to tell you, I did that for someone who had this really cool, funky beard, and I gave a gift of a barbershop professional beard consultation. Changed his life. He still talks about it 10 years later. Do those little things for people and for yourself. This flow, using money as an energy exchange to lift people up, is absolutely fantastic. I can't tell you what kind of joy I think you can feel it if you're ever around me and I'm talking about the different things that we can do with the money. And that, if there's nothing else that I impart to everyone, is that there does not have to be anxiety and fear surrounding money. Yeah, there's a little bit, hey, if I can't pay my bills, that's stressful. It can be. It really can be, but it doesn't have to be. And so with this money exchange, we're able to do such fantastic things. And it's not much. I mean, we had just a little bit of money that we collected and donated to Heifer International. And the really cool things that have happened, because, it was like $100, I think, the first time we did it, and to see those little chickies being raised and things like that, it's just really cool. It helps people. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be very joyful. And we joyfully and with honor accept that energy coming to us so we can do these really cool things. And we've made it really easy with, phones. You can go in and you don't have to have a PayPal account. You can just go in and donate with credit cards and stuff. We've got buttons all over the place to make it easy for people, not to like beg, oh, we need this money to do things. Yeah, we do. That's the plain fact of it. But we do great things with what comes to us. And we are hoping, and we're really working, consciously choosing to do this. And we are expanding what we're doing. And for us to expand what we're doing, we have to expand the money that comes to us in one way, shape, or form. And if you're one of those people that absolutely you're struggling to make things meet, maybe we can help you with that. I mean, we don't have a lot of extra money, to be honest with you. We're running $300 behind this month. But that money's going to come. It has for the past 2 years through this pandemic. Why? Because we believe that, because we're putting that out into the universe. We are consciously choosing to do this. And we hope you consciously select that as well and join our community in one way, shape, or form to help us magnify the wonderfully high vibrations that are in this world and around this world, and that we bring to the world, and you can too. And I know that any little amount that we get is absolutely blessed. And we used to do that when we came together, is we would really look to bless that money. And I believe we're going to start to do that again. I don't know if I put you on the spot or not, Renee. I think we talked about this, but I'm going to pass this back over to you
Okay.
to bless that incoming financial donation. Thank you so much for your time, everyone, and supporting us in what we do. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. That was beautiful. She has such a great, joyful consciousness around everything, and especially money, which is such a beautiful gift that she brings, and Spencer actually does too. So here we go. Here's what I want to bless the energy exchange. Now, let me explain what that means. Your presence today is your energy, and we want to bless that. And you received from us, and then you gave to us by your presence. If you have done a love button, if you shared the video, or if you want to do any of that now, if you've made comments, that's another exchange of energy you're receiving from us, and you're returning energy to us, because that helps us get, likes and views and things, more awareness. And so if you want to make a donation, that's a financial energy exchange. You're receiving from us and you're returning energy to us. So what we want to do is we want to bless this flow of energy, so that whatever energy exchange is appropriate for you, it is always good to make it an exchange. Give what you can. If nothing else, give us a blessing in return, right? If you give us a like or something, and that's good for you. It's good for us and it's good for you. So let's just do that now. Let's just take a moment and open our heart with joy, and just have a bountiful, beautiful sense of joy and blessedness for this energy exchange we're all receiving today, whatever form it is. We thank you and we bless you in return. Okay, and now I'm going to hand it back to Spencer. We're going to have the new part of our format, the conscious conversation. Thank you, Spencer.
Yeah, I didn't have my microphone on. Yeah, thank you so much, Renee, for that, and Lori. I guess I didn't really have much prepared to start the conversation.
Would you like me to?
Yeah.
Let me do that. I think I was supposed to anyway. So here's what I suggest we start our conversation with.
Yep.
I personally would love for the two of you to share in whatever way feels appropriate for you, brings you joy to do, the concept of consciousness and evolving. And so our center's been open around, I think, 3 years, if I'm remembering correctly. And you all have been a key element from the beginning. So both of you. And so I would be love to you to share. I know some of it because I know you all so well. To share with our listeners and those who listen later in a replay, how has your consciousness evolved, and what's your understanding of how this idea of conscious living and making conscious choice with clear intention, how that's evolved your consciousness, and how that has impacted your life then, and any tips you want to share about it, just anything you want to share about it. Who would like to start?
I can go if you're still thinking, Spence, but if something's hit
Sure.
you, go.
Well, I was just gonna say that I had I feel like I've always been a relatively self-aware person, like from a very, very early age. And I don't mean to say that to be braggadocious or anything. I just feel like I've always been questioning the life in the universe and everything. And so I've always been aware of myself and how I'm feeling, as well as to a point where it was just not healthy, to where if you're a fan of the show The Good Place, which I am, where I was basically like Cheaty, where I can't make a decision. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to try to find the answer to everything, but also realize that there's multiple answers to everything. But lately I've been able to, through being conscious and being aware of that fact, has allowed me to just sort of release that portion of myself, so I don't get paralyzed by fear of making the wrong decision, or I don't get paralyzed or sort of lost in the mire of just overthinking things. One of my favorite songs is the lyric is, overthinking and overanalyzing separates the body from the mind. And
Nice.
that happens, that used to happen quite frequently. So in the past couple of years, I've been able to really realize that, recognize that about myself, and say, it's okay if you don't have the answers right now. It's okay if you don't know, and just allow what is going to come to come. So, yeah, that's one way. It's one of the biggest ways that it's really helped me, impacted me.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, I know you had something you wanted to add too.
I did. I have been and will continue to be a highly sensitive person. When I was younger, I didn't know that that was a thing. Number one, everybody in my surrounding circles would tell me, you just need to grow thicker skin. Everything affects you. And it did. Yeah, absolutely. I could tell from the driveway whether somebody walking towards the house was in a good mood, a bad mood. I mean, I was very receptive to other people's energies, and I used to really feel this massive energy like wall with my mother. And then I stumbled across, well, it was divine intervention. I didn't stumble across someone who helped me realize that highly sensitive people do exist. Here's what it's all about. We're usually empaths. And what we need to do is truly figure out what we need in self-care and energy work to shore up our energy, so that if somebody else is trying to force the energy towards us, we can go, oh, I get it. You're wobbly. Let me be steadfast in my energy. And that was absolutely priceless information for me, and structure. And then I moved away from my mom and did a lot more work and realized why she had this really strong energy field. And we got to talk about it. And, 3 years ago, I was able to continue that journey. It was probably 4 years ago since, I started the training with you, Renee. And I didn't realize that the things going through my life, because I had these blinders on and didn't realize that I wasn't making those conscious choices. Because here I've had the training, but I wasn't using those tools. Thought I was, but I wasn't. So I was just like putting up that same type of energetic wall. And it started right after my mom passed away. And so that's what has really helped me is doing the work, surrounding myself, allowing my circle to be with those people who are very conscious in their selections of what to do and how to work with energy and how to manifest. I mean, it's just been absolutely priceless, because I work in such a field that there's so many people. I probably talk to 1,000 different people a day with all the meetings that I have. I looked at that last week and the week before, is how many different people from all over the world that I video with on a daily basis, and how many is that a week?
Wow.
And how I feel sometimes after that. And that energy does come through these videos. Absolutely. Just because we may be thousands of miles away in a different time zone doesn't mean that we don't affect each other energetically. And sometimes that's fantastic. And I've been very blessed this week to have someone from across the pond say, we miss you when you're not on these conversations with us. Whether you're on video or not, when you dial in, sometimes you don't even talk. But because we see you dial in, we're like, oh, she's here and things are good. And I didn't know how to take that at first, because I'm like, I didn't think I really added a whole lot to this technical conversations. I've been stepping back, and I'm more in a project manager role instead of playing with the Legos now. But it was really interesting to get that confirmation this week that my energy presence has helped. Whether it's technically I've said something or I'm just on the phone, here you go. It's really wonderful.
Oh, that is really cool. I wanted to comment on something I was aware of as both of you were sharing. So, what you just shared, Lori, was about how the energy feels when you're a person who exudes a lot of positive energy and high frequency, and how that you have can be very sensitive to it, or others are receiving from you. And then Spencer, what I noticed then as the two of you were talking is I think you gave a great example of how a person who's very grounded like you are, you're a very grounded, thoughtful, reflective person. So you bring that energy into your experience. And then you both had to learn how to be that in the world,
Yeah.
right? You both had to learn how to be who you are without it being wrong, and then learn how to use it well, use it intentionally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to key on that. Go ahead. Well,
You go
let me
ahead.
just say
You
this.
sound really, yeah.
Yeah, the key that you had said was that it's okay. It's not wrong.
Yeah.
Because there's this huge societal, you know, stigma sometimes when it's like, I just seriously cannot do that. I don't have the energy. My body, I need to, you know, kind of cocoon in a little bit and decompress. And throughout my childhood, it was, come on, let's go. You're supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be doing that. And it was very difficult for me to go, I can't. I need to cocoon myself in this room with books and nobody else.
Yes.
No phones, no nothing. Back then it was easier. We just unplugged the phone from the wall. It's all good.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, Lori, your story and, about the fact of when you are a higher frequency and how other people recognize it. Yeah, too, that's such a beautiful way of putting it. Like right now in my personal life, I'm not necessarily working in the career field that I want to, or that I want to be in long term, but it's just living with that awareness and consciousness. I see that too at work, and it makes it fun for me. It's like I go into work, and then when my manager is like, just, I don't want to say she's constantly praising me, but she's just very happy and will let me know that she's happy to have my presence there. And I asked for more hours the other day because somebody was sick, and she was like elated to know that I was willing to come in more frequently and work longer hours to do so. So it's really made what, most people will be like, well, this sucks. I don't have the job I want. I don't have the life I want. Rather than have that mentality, it's like, this isn't necessarily where I want to be, but it's a stepping stone on my path. And I can be aware of it as that and not putting a judgment on it as it's not, exactly what I want, and having a hissy fit about it, for lack of a better term.
That's such a key element. I'm glad you brought that up, because honestly, the very worst thing we can do is judge ourselves. The absolute worst thing, and judging others too, of course, but getting in the frequency of judging, because what that's doing in terms of the energy, in terms of consciousness and energy, judging ourselves and judging others is when we judge ourselves, we're literally constricting, we're cutting ourselves off. I forget which one of you said that. I think it was one of you just said something like that, but where we're cutting ourselves off from the divine. We're like either in our head, but we're cutting off our heart, and we're not in our mind, we're in our brain, right? Intellect, and they're a human intellect, cutting off from infinite intelligence, cutting off from divine love and divine presence and power. We're just, the judging ourselves cuts that off. And then it's important to understand that we're judging others, we now are in that same frequency. And it's really important that we learn to be aware without judgment. Yeah. And if you all have any tips that you want to share about, let's say you're your frequency is off. Your consciousness isn't where you know it can be. So do you all want to share? Is there a tip something you personally like to do? Is it how you start your day? Is it something in the moment, or something you do to set yourself up when you go to bed at night in terms of how you wake up? Anything like that you want to share?
Yeah, I would
Uh,
say if you're like brand new to it, I think that, and I might be a little bit biased here, but I think Spiritual Center for Conscious Living has great resources. And I would honestly recommend that
Yay.
energy activation that we did today. Normally, I'm gonna be honest, I'm the producer of this video. Normally, I don't get to do them. And a lot of times I don't come back and get a chance to do them. So I took the time to do it today, knowing we're gonna have this conversation. And it was just a beautiful thing. Like, it's a beautiful place to start with something like that. And it doesn't even have to be a daily practice. Just start doing it, and as you become more aware, you'll know those situations, such as I know working holidays in retail that I'm going to be having a challenging day. So I consciously get there 15 minutes early, and eventually got to the point where I just sit in my car with a song that I really love and put it on and just take some deep breaths, and I don't just let everything go and know that I am going to be a light for other people in this world, and I will see the light in others in that experience. No matter what happens, they could be somebody very upset and having a moment at me, and I'm still going to see the light in them. And then it just, it gets easier and easier, and you can do smaller and smaller things to do that. You don't have to wave magic wands or do anything to make it happen. It's within you at all times, and you'll start to learn that, and it's a really beautiful experience.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
so cool. Thank you,
it
Spencer.
is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you, Lori? Anything you want to share?
I have this wonderful little journal that I got for Christmas from somebody that is on, and I have journaled for years and years and years. But one of the things that I had fallen away from is gratitude. Every morning, what I do pretty much first thing is I write down 3 things that I am grateful for. And some days it's coffee, painkillers, and sleep, but and sometimes it's multiple days in a row. But one of the things that I've keyed on is I am grateful for conscious living, using those conscious choices to create my best life. And that is something that keeps coming in. And that's something that I've written over the last like 3 or 4 days. Coffee's also on here today. Painkillers. But that is something that, starting my day looking at that, and looking at little hearts, and when I'm waking up with any kind of pain or something going on, that and music that makes me dance. And if I can't physically dance, I mentally dance in my bed. I will, my opportunity clock here, when it goes off, I'll read it because I thought it was really cool. This came to me the one day. It's the tune is very uplifting, and it's very, I don't know, it's just really cool. But it also, the name of it is "Yay, we get to start this day and live every day." And that is something that I see first thing when I go to shut the opportunity clock off. So those things have helped to really keep me in high vibration.
I love that. I'll add to that too. Then, if just something came to me, I do think it's so important. I really appreciate how both of you shared your way of getting your vibration up, your frequency high, so that you can be a light in the world. Not, you can be a light for yourself, for those in your immediate environment, and then for those, like Spencer was saying, and Laura, you speaking to people around the world. But like in your example, Spencer, we never know somebody we pass. It could be we're out getting groceries and somebody we pass in the parking lot or come down an aisle next to you who's just gone through something tragic or is in the midst of some kind of physical, emotional pain. And just our presence actually does uplift. And when you become aware of that, you begin to see it because these people will say something to you and then say a thank you for your kindness. And you thought you were just being normal, but it meant something to them, right? And so one of the things I do recommend to everybody listening, I do this too, and you'll see that Spencer and Lori just actually shared in their own way how they do it. So I intentionally in the morning, as I'm having my coffee, not everybody drinks coffee. I know Spencer doesn't, but I start my day with coffee, a cup of coffee too. And I like good coffee as well. And I do start my day giving thanks for celebrating. I call it celebrating my life. And I think of at least three things. And one of them is always nature. One of them is always my little fur baby. And also I make a point to sit for 5 minutes or so, maybe 10, and I see the divine in the nature around me. I see the divine. I feel the divine. I feel divine presence, the light of the divine, the love and the joy of nature is the divine in expression. And I take time to start every day. And it makes you, like Lori commented, you give thanks for the gift of life, no matter, and I know we have things in the human realm that we have to deal with that can sometimes be so scary and so painful. And I just encourage everyone to find every day one thing to start with. If you're going through something difficult, still find one thing. Find one thing that is a joy of life, a gift of life, the awareness of the divine presence, which then you can then know there is divine power available to you, because where there is divine presence, there is divine power. And so that soothes you when you're going through something difficult. It will encourage you and uplift you. So I really do recommend that for you. I think we're about at time. What do you all say? Are we about time?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a great conclusion for us, too. So
Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm so glad that we have this new format. We welcome your feedback. Let us know what you thought, if you enjoyed it. And I'm sure you did. It was joyful for us. I'm sure you did. And if it brought up, even if you listen later, if it brings up a question for you, or you just want to make a comment, I will always go back through and listen to comments and answer them. And we will, if you want to direct one to Spencer or Lori, they will as well. And so next week, we will have this part 2 of the series. The series again is called Spiritual Metamorphosis, the Metaphysics of Rebirth and Renewal. And next week is part 2, Creating Anew. We're going to talk about creating new, not trying to recreate from old. We're going to just talk about how do you start fresh, create anew. Next week being Easter, I thought it would be an appropriate way to honor that amazing event that is celebrated as Easter, the resurrection by Jesus the Christ. And so we're going to talk about how do you create anew, because he certainly did that, didn't he? So we're going to talk about that next week. I hope you'll join us again and have a wonderful week in the meantime. Many blessings and much love from all of us. Let's all say goodbye, namaste, or goodbye. What do you want to say?
I'm just going to give a wave. It was going to be silent,
right.
but
yeah.
Okay, bless you. Have
that'll
a
be my
wonderful
sign
week.
off.
All right.